Welcome to the second episode of Candid Faith, a program focused on the important and difficult issues that we all face in the interfaith community. I'm your host, Joseph Al-Mehdi, and I'm thankful for this program airing on this channel and that you are here with us today. I hope you're all in good faith, and I ask that God inspires you today, even if not through this message, through any means that can bring you closer to Him.
Deep in the heart of Texas, at this little roadside bakery, bigotry is being served with a coffee and dish.
Sir, I had a question.
No, ma'am. We don't serve Muslims here.
I'm sorry.
This is America. We're at war with your people.
I don't know what you think I am. I'm just trying to get an apple.
Well, you're a terrorist is what you are. So
Excuse me?
you got to take your business elsewhere. We don't serve your kind here.
The other customers at this bakery near Waco seem to hear everything, but they barely look at the Muslim woman, even when the language is tough to take.
Get back on the camel and go back wherever you came from.
Sir, I'm an American. I was born and raised
No,
in
you're
this
not.
country.
Americans don't wear towels on their head.
Muslim Americans say these are words they hear all the time in all parts of the country. But here at the bakery, what the customers don't know is that this Muslim woman and the man behind the counter are actors. The bakery is working with us, all part of a primetime hidden camera experiment on prejudice and patriotism.
Please take your business elsewhere. Am I asking too much?
When no one even tries to help her, she makes a direct appeal.
Sir, would you mind ordering me an apple strudel? That's why I'm here. I can give you the money. I have no problem.
That's not a problem with the money, man. How much?
Please no, sir.
Huh?
I'm not going to let
No,
you
how
order.
much do I owe you?
But when he gives her the cold shoulder, she finally just leaves.
She's not American.
Others seem to agree with our actor as to who's an American and who's not. Is it all based on the way we look?
I'm an American citizen. I just would like an apple strudel, please.
Well, I'm sorry. Then why don't you dress like an American? You're
this
so
is
American.
for religious purposes, sir, and I don't think you have any right to say anything
So
about
I'm
it.
religious. I don't wear, Halloween costumes around. I mean, am I wrong here, sir?
Not me.
I run
no.
my business the way I want to
That's
run.
right. That's right. Don't come in here without shoes and shirt on.
This customer is adamant that the man behind the counter is doing the right thing.
I'm ready for you.
But the fact is, it's against the law to deny service to someone based on their race or religion.
My name is John Quinones, and I'm with ABC News. What did you think of what you heard here?
I didn't hear anything racist.
He told her he wouldn't serve her,
Well, he can say he wouldn't serve you if you come in here barefooted without a shirt on.
but she wasn't barefoot or without a shirt on.
Well, she wasn't dressed right.
What do you mean?
If I was running a place, I'd do the same thing.
You wouldn't let Muslims shop at your store?
I sure wouldn't.
We never expected customers to be so candid.
Why do we allow our ignorance and our misunderstandings to create divisions and hatred among us? Have we not learned from the holy sayings? Jesus, peace be upon him, said, "For with the same judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the same measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but fail to notice the beam in your own eye?" And in the Holy Quran, chapter 49, verse 11, it says, "O you who have believed, let not a people ridicule another people. Perhaps they may be better than them. Nor let women ridicule other women. Perhaps they may be better than them. And do not insult one another, and do not call each other by offensive nicknames. Wretched is the name of disobedience after one's faith, and whoever does not repent, then it is those who are the wrongdoers." We in the faith community today are witnessing a spiritual war unlike any other. These right-wing extremist propagandists and their followers are spreading fear and hate throughout the airwaves and discrimination in the streets. This will be the topic of today's episode. It's time for Candid Faith. I pray that as we continue this journey together, we can begin putting our hearts and our minds together and say enough to this ever-growing evil we see in today's society. Let us settle now into the protection and guidance of God with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. One issue we all may have faced in the interfaith community is that at one point or another we have experienced some form of discrimination from those of different faiths. It's sad when people of the book and believers in God in general attack and slander one another because, truthfully, walking this path of faith is hard enough as it is with the satanic armies out there. People of faith should work together, or at least be fair to one another, no matter the theological differences. A recent report by the Global Research Group showed that law enforcement, the FBI, the Immigration and Naturalization Service have repeatedly investigated, stopped, questioned, and in some cases arrested individuals due to the color of their skin, their origin, gender, or sexual orientation. Profiling is not something that sprung up after 9/11 dedicated to protect us. It violates civil liberties and generalizes by appearance. This method has now increased in intensity, expanding its scope into religion and origin, and of course, Muslims from all over the world face many hardships due to this. Here are two recent examples of religious discrimination by authority figures through racial profiling. No matter your faith, just try to imagine a day in the life of a Muslim in these volatile times. An Illinois National Guardsman and 3 private security personnel at O'Hare International Airport engaged in an unnecessary, unjustified, illegal, and degrading search of a 22-year-old United States citizen of Pakistani descent. She was identified and subjected to a humiliating search not because she posed any security threat, but only because her wearing of a hijab identified her as a Muslim. And 5 men, including Michael Desreth and Eduardo Keurig, had their civil rights violated when they were forced off of Continental Flight 1218 on New Year's Eve, after a fellow passenger stated, "The brown men are behaving suspiciously." These 2 cases are lost among too many cases, and with all due respect towards the victims of this religious discrimination and profiling, they are mild in comparison to others. And you don't have to wear a hijab or be a dark-skinned Muslim to be on the receiving end of harassment and discrimination today. It seems the only time people can look past skin color and differences is when it comes to religious discrimination. In 2015, I experienced an extreme case of religious discrimination and harassment by local and state authorities and the people of the small town that I lived in, Mooresville, Indiana. Now, in brief, I converted to Islam around 2010, and I spent 4 years in Egypt studying Islam, living with other Muslims. It was a great experience. And when I went home, I was treated so much differently by the neighbors that lived around us, by people in town, by the people that I went to school with. They had such a negative assumption about me, and I could feel their criticisms and their judgments about me. I remember they would come up to me in conversation, they would be so quick to leave, almost afraid of me. And when I felt this, I would end the conversation quickly so they could go. But when I turned away, they weren't quick to criticize and judge, make fun of. It was a very difficult time, and I did my best to get through it. I remember starting community college. I worked at a very humble job at a park. I was a night clerk at a park. And I remember this like it was yesterday. We had a big festival for 4th of July. We invited everybody from the town to come, watch the fireworks, have food. 3 hours before I had to go into my shift, I had a knock on the door, and it was an FBI agent. He asked if I wanted to come outside. I asked if he wanted to come in. He said no. I said, why? Because you can't come in. He said, no, I just want to talk to you. So we went outside and we talked for an hour, and he had some concerns about me being in Egypt, and I understand that. I understand that the world's in volatile times. I get the process. But after an hour of talking, he realized, he said, I've been investigating you for a few weeks anyway. I've talked to friends, I've talked to family members, I've talked to people at your school, talked to the employees at your park. You check out, I think you're a great guy, I like what you're doing with school and with volunteering programs. Everything is going to be okay. I'm going to call the police chief in your town. let him know everything is all right. So I thought everything was going to be all right, but when I went into work 3 hours later, it was much different. Upon arriving in my mother's vehicle, I still remember that there was the police chief of the small town that I lived, there was a state police chief, and there were 2 armed SWAT officers, the full military gear, waiting for me to get out of the car. And when I got out, they asked, "Are you Joseph?" I said, "Yes, I am." They said, "Well, we need to speak with you." And I said, "Well, I think I just spoke with the FBI agent for an hour, and he called you, and he said everything was okay." "Oh, no, we just want to settle some concerns that we have." So they asked if I could go into this building, and it was a locked building, and I felt uncomfortable with that. I said, "Are you detaining me?" And they said, "No." I said, "Well, you can't ask me to go into the building." And they said, "Everything's okay, we just want to ask you some questions." And I didn't want to go against that, so I said, "Okay, fine." They took me into this locked building, had armed guards inside and on the outside, asked me the same questions for 45 minutes, saying, "We just want to make sure everything is safe and everything goes off without a hitch." As I'm coming out, this armed police officer starts following me around the park, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" You know, and he said, "Well, I'm just supposed to be here with you." So I went back to the chief and I said, "Why is this guy following me?" And they said, "Well, you're going to have an armed guard with you tonight throughout the festival." I said, "Have I done something wrong?" And he said, "No, but we just want to make sure." So at this point, I'm completely devastated. I'm trying to do my job on one side and at the other side deal with this. When I go to the other side of the park and I start flagging traffic, all of a sudden there are 6 armed police officers standing in a group watching me flag traffic. So I'm like, what is going on? And then an employee walked up to me and said, "Joe, every single person in this park, employees, people attending, the police officers, the fire departments, they all know you're being watched for a potential terror threat. They are showing videos that you used to do talking about, your prior Muslim beliefs. They are making fun of you." One police officer even made the joke, and this is when it really started getting serious for me, where I really started getting disgusted, saying, "Oh, we're wasting taxpayers' monies by following this guy around. We just need to put an effing bullet in his head." So it was getting that bad. And I had no idea what was going on. What led up to all of this? What have I done? I'm in the community. I'm going to college. I'm working at a park. I'm volunteering for homeless shelters. What is happening? At the end of the night, everything goes fine. They keep me detained in the back of the park while the fireworks are going off. And then at the very end, when everybody left the park, the chief came up and shook my hand. "I'm so proud of you, the way you handled this situation." I said, "I understand, but I'll definitely be contacting the ACLU over what you guys have just done tonight." But it wasn't that night that was hard. It was the ripple effect. It was the police telling their families and the people at the park telling their families, and rumors started spreading that there was an actual terror attack, or that Joe brought guns, or Joe brought a bomb, or Joe's ISIS. And my little cousin from high school came and said, "What's going on?" They said that my friends are saying, their parents are saying that you're a member of ISIS. And I'm like, what is happening? What is going on? I wrote a report to ACLU. I got with the FBI agent. I sat down with the police chief. Come to find out, all of this happened because a kid in this town who went to high school with me, he's my age now, was watching Fox News, and Fox News was telling everybody in America that ISIS is going to commit a terror attack on 4th of July. And he contacted the small town of police and said, "I know a guy who just came back from Egypt. He's a Muslim. He works at a park. I think he's going to make a terror attack." Now, why am I sharing this story with you in today's program? Is it to gain some sort of sympathy? No. I took the few weeks in stride and did what I had to do to speak out against the injustice of it all. I did what I could do to show some sort of empathy for their ignorance, and took the opportunity to talk to members and leaders of the community about true Islam. Did I share my story to incite some sort of hatred or fear or violence? Of course not. But I hope it can make us think in a moment. Do you really believe for one moment that the people in this small town of Indiana, including the police officers, have any knowledge whatsoever of what true Islam is? Or more importantly, the intentions of my heart? No, they didn't. When some people in that town found out that I was a Muslim, they would say, "Oh, he's one of those Islams." They were suspicious. They made terrible judgments and assumptions, and they spread that fear among those they know. The Islam they know, the intentions in the hearts of the Muslims they think they know, that is taught to them by the media and these radical right-wing extremists. This shouldn't be surprising to any of you, and I hope you do not shut this out if it doesn't apply to you today, because we all know how this works, and it may just apply to you tomorrow. Have we forgotten our history already? From the Native Americans and to the African Americans, from the Japanese to the Vietnamese, the Arabs, the Muslims, and pretty soon, anyone who stands in their way. Those who exercise authority over the people have always had a way of dehumanizing a certain group of people in order to justify atrocities to further their grip over this world. How else could the U.S. government get away with robbing lands and people of their natural resources and cultures and freedoms? How else could it kill thousands upon thousands of innocents and the majority of Americans just turn their heads and their hearts not even flinch? How else could over 50% of Americans who voted this year vote for a man like Trump, who was calling for the banning of Muslims and the blocking of allowing Syrian refugees from entering the country? Those women and children who were fleeing for their lives when the European countries are already so overwhelmed with the disaster that America helped create in the first place. It's because we have been subconsciously manipulated to hate one another. They create a monster out of the other nation's race or religion. This 1942 poster titled "This is the Enemy" circulated in the United States following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Its purpose was to embody the entire Japanese nation as a ruthless and animalistic enemy that needed to be defeated. And how can one ignore or forget the Nazis' dehumanization of the Jews? Their tactic was simple. Oh, look at those Jews. They're different. They don't eat pork. The women cover their hair. Their food is funny. They smell weird. Does this not sound familiar? And speaking of which, why do American Christians criticize and discriminate against Muslim women who wear the hijab or the veil, saying, oh, they're oppressed, it is a terrible religion for women's rights? Yet they bring honor to the nuns who wear the covering. Is it not in the Holy Scriptures of the Torah and the Bible that a woman should cover herself? Do you believe that the holy prophets and messengers taught women and men of their time to dress in the way people do today? But the point is, posters and medias, just like the Japanese poster, have been used since the Spanish-American War. And as media advanced, so did the war for the minds and the hearts of people. In his book, To Hasten the Homecoming, How Americans Fought World War II Through the Media, Jordan Braverman wrote, "The media permeated American culture in so many ways that perhaps, after a while, the public took the media for granted and became less conscious of the subliminal but very real effects the media had on our daily lives." So for example, when someone from America takes their news from, let's say, Fox News, what sort of opinion do you think they would have towards Muslims?
Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Janine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. We need to kill them. We need to kill them. The radical Muslim terrorists hell-bent on killing us. You're in danger. I'm in danger. We're at war, and this is not going to stop. After this week's brutal terror attacks in France, hopefully everybody now gets it. And there's only one group that can stop this war: the Muslims themselves. Our job is to arm those Muslims to the teeth, give them everything they need to take out these Islamic fanatics. Let them do the job. Let them have at it. And as they do, we need to simply look the other way.
Bigger than everything else, they want to kill us. They're not going to stop until everybody in this country
Use your favorite
is
word.
a Muslim or is ruled by Muslims, no matter how nice we are. And they're radicalizing the younger and
Say
younger.
caliphate. The way
We're
you like
not-
They want a caliphate.
They want the caliphate,
yes.
but
Here's a simple question. I'd like a simple answer. Are radical Islamists evil, and are they a clear and present danger to the free world?
First, Sean, and also honorable guest, Pastor Jeffries, please stop saying radical Islam. It is either radical or Islam, but can't be both. Islamic radicalism is a big
you're not
lie.
answering my question.
And all
Again.
due to our guests, this is not evil. Yes, ISIS is evil. Islam is not evil. Evil is ignorance. Evil is injustice.
Let me
evil
ask the
is
question.
prejudice.
But wait a minute,
evil
sir,
is racism.
Sir, wait a minute.
And what?
Wait a minute. You're not answering my question.
I answer your
hang
question
on.
if you give me
There
time.
are people in the name of your religion that strap bombs, and very comfortable strapping bombs on their own children and hijacking airplanes and telling people that if they kill innocent men, women, and children in the name of Allah, that Allah will reward them with 72 virgins. It's done in the name of your religion. I will ask my simple question again. Is radical Islamist evil, And are they a clear and present danger to the world? Yes or no? Simple
Radical
question,
Islam
simple.
is evil because they are not Islamic. When I receive a letter from KKK, they threat me to death. I don't consider them representative of Christianity. So you cannot...
There's a difference. And let me answer what the Imam said about the KKK. Here's why you can't tie it to Christianity. You can't find one verse in the New Testament that says, kill unbelievers. Jesus, the founder of our faith, didn't kill anybody. He was crucified. But you look in the Quran, you can find 35 sword verses. Muhammad was nothing but a bloodthirsty warlord who beheaded 600 Jews who would not follow him into battle.
True,
and
Pastor.
I know everybody doesn't
true.
like what Donald Trump says, but Donald Trump was right when he said there is something within Islam itself that causes its followers to hate us.
So what's happened is we're out of control. We have no idea who's coming into our country. We have no idea if they love us or if they hate us. We have no idea if they want to bomb us.
It's important for our viewers here at Candid Faith to understand that we are not saying that hate speech or the discrimination began with Trump or even with Fox News at that. We all know it has been going on for a very long time and on many outlets. But what we are seeing is a new hate machine against Muslims, working harder and harder, and it is the driving force for the fear and the ignorance being developed in Americans towards Muslims today, in small towns like my own, and all over the country. Some of the key components of this hate machine, one would even argue it could be the fuel for the hate machine, is this extreme right-wing movement. This group is commonly known for its extreme nationalism and opposition to immigration. Its ideology features extreme nationalist, chauvinist, xenophobic, racist, or reactionary views, which can lead to oppression and violence against groups of people based on their supposed inferiority or their perceived threat to the nation, state, or ultra-conservative traditional social institutions. It is the poor and uneducated white Americans who are fed and gobble up such nonsense through the mainstream media outlets like Fox News. The likes of Fox News and the mainstream right-wing conservative programs are like the outer ripples of hate, or the breeze that fans the fire, if you will. The strongest current of hate, or the spark, if you will, is undoubtedly coming from these far right-wing extremists on talk radio. Robert Hillard, co-author with Michael Keith of the forthcoming book, Waves of Rancor, Turning in the Radical Right, said in 1998, "In this age of television and the internet, we tend to forget that radio, the older medium, continues to be the lifeline of the far right in disseminating, persuading, and recruiting." And recruit they did. Today in 2016, millions of listeners tune in weekly to have fear and hate and ignorance intravenously injected into them. And do not think these doctors of such a terrible and toxic dose are ignorant. Of course they're not. These extreme right-wing radio hosts are very, very intelligent, and they know exactly what they are doing. Let's take a look at some of the forerunners, their listenership, their rhetoric, and the type of influence they hold over their followers. The Rush Limbaugh Show has nearly 13,300,000 listeners each week. Sean Hannity comes in at 12,500,000 weekly, Glenn Beck at 7 million weekly, Mark Levin at 7 million weekly, and last but certainly not least, Michael Savage at 5,250,000 listeners weekly. Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, and Michael Savage all spread their extreme right-wing, anti-Islamic, xenophobic rhetoric to millions on the airwaves each day. They generalize to such an extent that all of a sudden every Muslim in the world is categorized as having a violent intention or being a potential terror threat. They create such a fear and hatred in the common people that those people in turn go out to campaign rallies for Trump or protests in small towns and cities all over America, or they take to the social media to in turn spread that hate and fear to the people they can reach out to. Here are a few clips to let you know what kind of fear and hate mongers we are dealing with today.
Why is he flooding America with Muslims in every town and village in this country? What is he wanting to do? I'm not going to put my wife in a hijab, and I'm not going to put my daughter in a burqa, and I'm not getting on my all fours and praying in Mecca, and you can drop dead if you don't like it. You can shove it up your pipe. I don't want to hear any more about Islam. I don't want to hear one more word about Islam. Take your religion and shove it up your behind. I'm sick of you. Your Bible has been revised several times. Jewish Bible's been revived several times. Not the Quran, though. They still live in the 7th century. Kill homosexuals. Cut the clitoris off women. Put women in dark clothing. Cut off anyone's head who doesn't agree with you. What kind of religion is this? What kind of world are you living in that you left them in here with that throwback document in their hand, which is a book of hate? Don't tell me I need re-education. They need deportation. I don't need re-education. Deportation, not re-education. You can take CAIR and throw them out of my country. I'd raise the American flag, and I'd get out my trumpet if you did it. You look on the earth, there's a bomb going off, or a car going up in flames, and it's Muslims screaming for the blood of Christians, or Jews, or anyone they hate. When we pick up their hateful little book, I can read chapter and verse. I can see what it says in their book of hate. It says that if you see a stranger who is not a Muslim, either convert him or kill him. Page after page after page is about religion, a religion that teaches convert or kill. A religion that says oppress women, kill homosexuals, kill the Jew, kill the Christian, kill the infidel. Page after page after page, and we're supposed to sit here and listen to this rubbish about a religion of peace. And every day Bush brings in thousands of more of these throwbacks. Throwbacks wearing medieval costumes, walking around spitting on the ground every time they see a Christian or a Jew or a so-called infidel. These throwbacks think they're better than you underneath it all, and 90% of them are on welfare. 90% of them come in here, and all they do is breed more bombers. More bombers and more bombers. And you're telling me this is a sane country?
And perhaps one of the worst in the media today, spreading fear and hatred towards Muslims and Islam in general, is Bill Maher.
We have hypocrites across faiths, Jewish, Christian, who say they're out for God, and they end up doing
you know what?
nice things.
You know what? That's liberal bullshit right there. I mean, yes, all
there are no
faith
Christian
is
hypocrites.
No, there are.
You made
they're
a career
just,
on that.
They're not as dangerous. I mean, there's only one faith, for example, that kills you or wants to kill you if you draw a bad cartoon of the prophet. There's only one faith that kills you or wants to kill you.
So why is Islam the one religion about which so many in America and the West censor themselves when it comes to talking about or making fun of? Is it just fear?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because they're violent, because they threaten us, and they are threatening. They bring that desert stuff to our world. I said the same thing Friday night. You know, we don't threaten each other, we sue each other. That's the sign of civilized people. And they don't. You know, yes, we do have religious nuts in this country. There was a cleric in Iran who recently said that earthquakes were caused by slutty women. Well, Pat Robertson once said that abortions caused hurricanes, I think. But the difference is Pat Robertson doesn't have the power to cut your arms off. You know, I mean, people who want to gloss over the difference between Western culture and Islamic culture and forget about the fact that the Islamic culture is 600 years younger and that they are going through the equivalent of what the West went through with our Middle Ages, our Dark Ages, when religion had way too much power, and we had inquisitions and things like that, do so at their peril. You know, when they caught this guy, yeah, go ahead.
No, when you hear, you know, the off refrain from American Muslims, and the vast majority of American Muslims, you know, abhor this kind of stuff, you know, they will say, look, Islam is a religion of peace. Do you buy that?
Yeah, they blow you up. There's a PC over there, there's a PC over there, there's a PC over there.
It's time that we in the faith community stand up to this fear and this ignorance and hatred that's being spread around the internet and the radio. The reality is that the Islam these right-wing extremists think they know is completely distorted and untrue. The reality is that you are not going to die today from a terrorist. In 2016, little children all over America shot and killed more people in the United States than Muslim terrorists did. The reality, you are more likely to be eaten by a shark or a bear than to be killed in a terrorist attack. In fact, I would go as far as even saying that you are more likely to ride a shark or a bear than be attacked by a terrorist. In 2016, it is said that there are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. That is 23% of the entire population. Obviously, there would be a lot more terror attacks if even a small percentage of Muslims were terrorists. The truth is, there is an extreme minority of radicals in Islam, and their purposes behind their attacks most times are not even spiritually motivated. It is politically driven or for power. These so-called Muslim extremists are not even considered Muslim by the Islamic communities. ISIS and Al-Qaeda represent Islam no more than the radical Buddhist monks burning women and children alive in Myanmar, or neo-Nazi thugs portraying some distorted version of Christianity, or militias in America that use Christianity and the Constitution to spread messages of hate. How come whenever there is an attack and a Muslim is involved, it is outright terrorism, and Islam is to blame, and the Holy Quran is a book of hate and war? Why is it that when a Christian or atheist or Satanist or you name it commits a terrible act of terrorism, they are just a madman, he was a lone wolf, he was mentally unstable? Their religions or their ideologies are not even attacked by the media whatsoever. Please, please put these hate mongers and these bigots away and pull closer to the teachings of your faith. Put your trust and faith in God and follow the teachings laid down before you. Remove the hatred and the fear in your hearts, and you will find that you have more in common with your brother than with these dark, evil people. That's our show for today. If you have any feedback, I encourage you to write to the show. And I also encourage you to extend your hand tomorrow to someone of a different faith, someone in need. You never know what the person to your left or right is going through, or how the simplest of acts can make all the difference in their lives. Thank you for joining us once again, and tune in next time as we continue to explore the difficult and important issues that we all face in the interfaith community. My name is Joseph Al-Mehdi. May God keep you safe and increase you in all that is good.
The issues is immigration and refugees. You're in essence a refugee. You have now in Tibet an immigration issue with Chinese coming into Tibet to work. So when you hear about the U.S. grappling with that issue, what do you think from your perspective? Some politicians in the U.S. are making the same arguments about immigration and border security and limiting the number of people coming in.
All white Americans come from outside. So I think, I mean, what to say, if they, because of the several millions or 100 million come from outside, then see, you have to think seriously. Otherwise, you see, a few millions easily is absorbed in this country, no problem.
The White House said that you expressed condolences about the death in Florida. Your thoughts about that, and if, as we're learning, this is someone who killed in the name of religion?
That's wrong. That's wrong. The very word Muslim terrorist, that I think wrong. The terrorist. They are not, strictly speaking, they are not practicing religion. The genuine Muslim practitioner. Wonderful people. And Islam teach the practice of love. When they pray to Allah, you see, Allah consider, you see, infinite love.
But the main threat that the U.S. seems to be facing is from that one place, a radical version, a perverted version of that religion, right?
No, I think that's their use. You see, the religion, if they use a certain Quran word, it's wrong. And actually, these people, I do not consider genuine Muslim practitioner.